Elden Ring Nightreign's Rotted Woods are probably its most unique Shifting Earth location. If you know where to look, then you can easily get its hidden power on day 1. And then, when you come back on day 2, it's basically just a gauntlet of formidable bosses, where you can collect a ton of powerful weapons and buffs. Hi everyone, my name's Diabetor, and today I'm going to walk you through Nightreign's Rotted Woods. Before we go over the actual walkthrough of the Rotted Woods, I want to quickly go over a map of it so that you're familiar with its important locations, such as the boss spawns and the potential spawns for the Rotted Woods Blessing. So the first important thing are the 3 green circles you see marked on the map. These are the potential spots where the Rotted Woods Blessing can spawn. So, in typical gameplay, what the developers want you to do is you go to the fort in the south center area of the Rotted Woods, and there you'll find a map which will highlight the location of the Rotted Woods Blessing on your map so that you can then go to it and get the blessing. That's cool, and if you're not really familiar with the Rotted Woods, then that's a great way to go and get the blessing. But it's also kind of time consuming, and there's only 3 potential spots where the blessing can spawn, so if you know those 3 spots, then you can easily just go and check them on day 1 and get the blessing right away and have it for the entire expedition. So let's actually look at them in-game. The first one is in the northwest corner of the Rotted Woods. You can see it's right above the end of this cloud. If you look closely on the map, you'll see that the route that it's on is this like H-shaped, lambda-shaped kind of thing. Do you know what a lambda is? You ever played Half-Life, you know what a lambda is, right? And so that big-ass route is where the blessing can spawn. So you can mark that on your map, run up to it. If you see it glowing from a distance, then it has the blessing. If it's not glowing like you see in the video here, then it doesn't have the blessing. I also want to clarify, I just kind of lied a second ago because this is where I found the blessing, but I got it on day 1. In this clip, it's day 2. But you can also see, like, the flower up there will be glowing before you get it, and it'll be dripping this glowing sap onto the ground there. So that's how you know that that'll be the route that has the blessing on it. The second spot is in the southwest corner of the Rotted Woods, and it's just to the south of the first spot. This one is a bit more difficult to spot on the map because it doesn't have a landmark directly next to it, like how the other one had the cloud right under it, but it's just to the southwest of the fort, and you can see it's kind of like a dark triangle on your map. You'll also notice there's a formidable boss spawn there, so you can use that as a landmark too. It's just to the south of that spawn, but that boss won't always be there, which we'll talk about in a second. But you can see it's this enormous route here. You gotta go around the back of it to climb up it, kinda, but it shouldn't be too hard to find your way up. It's, you know, it's just a single route that you run up. And then finally, our final Rotted Blessing spawn is all the way on the east side of the woods. This one doesn't really have any significant landmarks next to it, but fortunately this one itself is the significant landmark. You can very clearly see the enormous route right there, and so that is where the thing can spawn. I'm showing a clip of this one specifically because there's a bunch of Kindred of Rot around it, and when you try to run up onto the route, they usually attack you, and you know, they've got their pest threads that they shoot at you, like you just saw I got hit by. So I strongly recommend you kill all the Kindred that are here. There's one on the woods, or on the route, and then there's like 3 or 4 underneath that guy. So kill them, and then you can easily just run across the route and go and grab the blessing. If it were here, it'd be a glowing thing on the end of this route, and you'd be able to see it from a distance. So as you're approaching it, you don't want to run all the way up to it to see if it has it or not. You want to look at it, see if you can spot the glowing blessing or dew. So in this case, I ran all the way up to this one, but there's no blessing here. And so I then went over to check the next one to the south of it, and from a distance I'll be able to see that it's glowing, and so I know that's where it's at, and I go up to it and grab it. You can see the glow if you look closely, and so I was like, aha, that's the one. And so I went all the way over to it. If I didn't see that glow there, then I wouldn't run over to it, you feel me? So you want to try to be as time efficient as possible. And so here now in the clip you can see much more clearly the glow up there, and then I'm going to go and run up the route and go and grab it. So those are the different spots where the Rotted Woods Blessing can spawn, and now I want to talk about my strategy for actually going and getting it. So what I recommend you do is day 1, first thing you should do is just run right over to the Rotted Woods and grab that blessing. The enemies in the Rotted Woods aren't that hard, and they actually drop a decent amount of runes if you're killing things like the ants and the Kindred of Rot. So you can get a bunch of runes and, you know, loot corpses and stuff, or things like weapons that inflict rot, rot grease, rot pots, stuff like that that'll help you on day 1 and 2 of your expedition while you go to get the blessing. Once you have the blessing, you can go probably hit the fort and then leave and go to the castle, or, you know, get flask churches or everjails if you need that stuff for your relics or whatever, right? And so I recommend going to the woods on day 1 because the blessing is really strong. You can see in the clip I'm able to tank all these attacks even more than I normally would be able to because the blessing lets you regenerate some of your health after you take damage from an attack, right? So like here, I get hit, and then I just hit the enemy and I get all my health back, right? So the blessing is really good, and having that early in your expedition means that it can benefit you more, so that's better. And then you also get things like weapons and consumables that do rot buildup, which in single player isn't really going to help me all that much because, like, you know, in these clips I'm killing the enemies too fast for them to get rotted. But if you're playing duos or trios where the enemies have a lot more health, then being able to inflict rot on them for the extra damage over time is nice. And especially so against bosses such as the castle boss or field bosses or the night boss. Speaking of bosses, we now move on to part 2 of this video, which is the potential boss or camp spawns that you see marked on the map here. So there are 8 spots throughout the Rotted Woods where formidable bosses can spawn. However, only 6 of them will actually have a formidable boss. The other 2 spots will have camps that are full of the ancestral followers, you know, the ones with the fat lady singing, and those are potential spots where you can easily look to get legendary weapons from their chests, which I'll talk about in a second. But so if you look at the map here, you see there's 8 red dots on the map, and then if we compare that to one that I have from in-game, 6 of the spots where there were red dots, there are formidable bosses, which automatically get marked at the start of day 2, and then I left 2 red dots there because those are the missing formidable bosses, and those spots will have ancestral follower camps, which you should try to hit if possible. So if you really wanted to, like, you know, try hard and have your ultimate expression of skill or whatever the fuck Vadi Vidya says, you know, then you can try to memorize all the spots where there are potentially bosses here so that you can easily find the 2 that will have the ancestral follower camps. But I don't bother doing that, you know, I just go like, hey, you know, it looks like there's a pretty empty space over here. While I'm on the way to another boss, let me stop by that and see if I can hear the fat lady singing. And you can hear them from pretty decent distance off, so it's not hard to find them, you know. And so once you get to the camp, there are 3 tents. One of the tents will be blocked off with some wood, and it has a big glowing chest inside of it. That chest has a chance of dropping legendaries. And so if you happen to come across these camps, it's a good spot to look so that you can run in, hit the chest real quick, and see if you get a legendary. If you're on day 1, then you can kill the ancestral followers and stuff that are here for a decent number of runes. I want to say you get something like 15,000 runes per camp. And, you know, the enemies are pretty easy, but the main thing you're here for are the legendaries. And also, something that I found mildly interesting is in this clip, I used my ultimate, and it actually destroyed the tent that had the large chest in it, so that was kind of interesting. But anyway, so the camps are like a side thing. Like I said, you want to try to find the camps while you're moving in between formidable bosses. Because the strategy for the Rotted Woods, it's not really like the other Shifting Earth areas where, you know, there's like a specific route that you want to take or whatever. The thing about the Rotted Woods is that you want to get the blessing, and then on day 2, after you've, you know, gotten some decent weapons and stuff on day 1, you want to come here and hunt down as many of the formidable bosses as possible. I think they're all guaranteed to drop a rare at least, and then I think they have like a 5% or a 10% chance of dropping legendaries or something like that. So, you know, you want to kill as many of these guys as possible so that you can maximize your chances of getting, you know, good weapons, good buffs, and hopefully legendaries if you get a little lucky. I want to say there are like 10 different formidable bosses that you can find. There's things like Erdtree Avatars, there's Draconic Tree Sentinel, Loretta, Blackblade Kindred, there's a bunch of them. So, you know, you want to be prepared. I think the majority of them are weak to either strike or pierce damage, and I think that only the Blackblade Kindred is immune to rot. So, you know, you can use the rot stuff that you find throughout the woods against them to make them a little bit easier. But other than that, you know, they're basically just regular bosses. You kill them, and then you want to try to move on to the next one as fast as possible. When it comes to routing between the bosses, I don't really think there's necessarily a best route. Usually what I do is I'll just kill one and then mark the next closest one on the map and go to that, and just try to hit all 6 of them as quickly as possible. Usually in a trio, we usually get like 4 or 5 of them, so, you know, it's pretty good, but preferably you want to get all 6 of them. And really, that's pretty much it for the Rotted Woods. There's only one other thing I want to say, and that's make sure you take advantage of the sacramental bud plants that are around the woods. So you see, as you pass by them, you can use your use button to cure rot. So before you get the blessing, which makes you immune to rot buildup, That's useful for not getting rotted. But also, they heal you a little bit every time you eat one, and they come in clusters of like 10 or 15 buds. So if you're injured or if you're in the rain or something and you're running through the woods, you can stop by those bud clusters and just, mash the use button, eat a bunch of them, and restore a bunch of your health. So that's a nice little tip. And other than that, I think I really don't have anything else to say about the Rotted Wood, so I'm going to call that the end of the video. I hope you found this helpful. Please leave a like, share the video, consider subscribing, and consider joining my channel as a member, because those things all really help me out. My name is Diabedor, and I will catch you later.